Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into a really sought-after professional program from the International Institute of Executive Careers, or as we'll call it, the IIEC. If you're looking to, take a massive leap in your professional journey, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to look closely at their Chief Revenue Officer program, exploring exactly what it takes to master the modern revenue engine and, ultimately, dramatically boost your employability. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our agenda for today. First up, the modern growth driver. 2, aligning the revenue engine. 3, the 4 core pillars. And 4, advancing your executive career. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the modern growth driver, redefining revenue leadership. So the modern corporate landscape is, well, it's incredibly complex. Gone are the days of just relying on a sales team operating in a total vacuum. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how experts from our Wharton Emeritus source proudly and honestly pretty provocatively refer to the Chief Revenue Officer as the Chief Rebel Officer or Chief Revolutionary Officer. Crazy, right? But why? Because a true CRO is out there challenging traditional silos across the entire timeline of revenue and growth. They literally have to be revolutionary in how they oversee all aspects of business expansion. To get a bit more specific, our Kaplan Executive Search source defines the CRO as something fundamentally distinct from your traditional chief sales officer. They are the executive responsible for all activities that bring revenue into a business. This goes way, way beyond cold calling or managing sales quotas. The CRO basically has both hands firmly on the steering wheel of the entire commercial engine. Moving right along, Section 2, aligning the revenue engine, bringing functions together. Now, if a CRO is responsible for everything that generates cash, we really need to look at the operational silos they actually have to unify. And this brilliantly illustrates those 4 critical activities. We've got revenue generation, so closing deals, demand generation, which is creating the buzz in marketing, go-to-market strategy, handling pricing and partners, and revenue operations, managing those underlying IT systems and processes. In most companies, these 4 functions are in absolute and sometimes comical conflict. A great CRO steps in and meticulously aligns them so they are all pulling in the exact same direction. Now, you might be wondering, how does this actually differ from, say, a chief customer officer? Well, a chief customer officer is fantastic, don't get me wrong. They're heavily front-facing and spend tons of time directly with key clients, but they typically lack the mandate for cross-functional integration. The CRO, on the other hand, builds the machine from the inside out. They're integrating sales, marketing, strategy, and ops to drive completely holistic growth. But make no mistake here, even while operating internally to integrate all those teams, the CRO is absolutely a customer-focused growth driver. They are paying deep, deep attention to customer retention and success across every single department. And I want to pause here just to remind you, mastering this precise customer-focused alignment, that is exactly how ambitious executives are advancing their careers today. By learning how to be this specific type of growth driver, you validate your skills and you push your market employability straight upward. Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 3, the 4 core pillars, the IEC program curriculum. So how do you actually learn to become this revolutionary growth driver? Well, the IIEC curriculum is built on 4 foundational pillars: growth strategies, revenue management, product management, and customer engagement. Let's walk through each one of these so you can see exactly the kind of expertise this program builds. Okay, Pillar 1. This focuses heavily on growth strategies. It's really about building a rock-solid foundation. We're talking high-level corporate strategy and figuring out how you can create entirely new value from that strategy. It also dives into the nuances of M&A, mergers and acquisitions, knowing when to acquire a company and, honestly, just as importantly, when to let one go. And finally, scaling. Taking an organization from 0 to 100 is incredibly difficult, and it is full of hurdles. This pillar basically teaches you how to systematically circumvent those hurdles. Moving to Pillar 2, we tackle revenue management. This gets right into the nitty-gritty of demand estimation, calculating a customer's true willingness to pay, utilizing dynamic pricing models, and even knowing when to limit the quantity of a product you put out there. So the crucial point is this: as a chief revenue officer, you might not be the person manually calculating demand curves every single day. But to have true executive control, you absolutely must understand how it's done. You have to get the mechanics behind the pricing to guide your teams effectively. Then we have Pillar 3, product management. Now you might think, hey, I'm in revenue, why do I care about the product? Well, because you literally can't drive sustainable revenue without building agile, good products that directly address real customer needs. This pillar focuses heavily on agility. It's about making sure your organization can adapt and build solutions that truly resonate with what the market actually wants, rather than what you just assume they want.
And the final one, pillar 4, is customer engagement. Look, we are living through an era of massive technological disruption. This pillar explores what all this new tech actually offers us when it comes to engaging with customers in the optimal way. It requires a deeply strategic approach to make sure you're connecting with the customer at every single touch point along their entire journey, turning that engagement directly into sustained revenue. Which brings us to our final section, Section 4, Advancing Your Executive Career, Your Next Steps.
We've covered the what and the how, and now, well, it's time for application. If you're an ambitious professional watching this, this is where the rubber meets the road. I want to ask you directly, are you ready to drive growth and elevate your career? Are you ready to step out of the comfort zone of a single silo and become a holistic growth driver? Because the market is actively looking for executives who can see the whole board and integrate these complex functions to bring businesses to totally new heights. If the answer is yes, your next step is pretty clear. I highly encourage you to visit thebestmba.org. That's https://thebestmba.org. Engaging with this IIC program is the definitive way to validate your skills, advance your career, and improve your employability as a modern chief revenue officer. I'll leave you with this. In an increasingly fractured corporate world, the future of business belongs entirely to those rare leaders who can tear down silos and permanently unify a company's revenue streams. So will you be one of them? Thanks so much for exploring this topic with me today.